Hey everyone, and welcome back to another breaking news update. My name is Jimmy Boyd, and you were watching Boyd News. Want to thank you so much for tuning in today. I'm back with another update coming out from the war between Russia and Ukraine, and I've got a very big lineup of news to share with all of you today. Today's date is October 18th, 2025, and it's Saturday. Welcome back to the channel, everyone, and I hope you're all having an awesome weekend so far. I've got a lot of news to update all of you on. We're going to start out talking about yesterday's meeting between U.S. President Donald Trump and Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky in Washington, D.C. I have another urgent update to share with you regarding Tomahawk missiles for Ukraine, as it looks like for now the missiles are off the table. Let's start off with this story here on your screen. Trump denies Tomahawk missiles to Ukraine, urges end to the war. Zelensky said after leaving the White House that he and Trump had discussed the Tomahawk issue, but decided not to comment on it because the United States does not want an escalation. So it looks like we're seeing another U-turn here. For several weeks, we've been hearing from Trump that Tomahawk missiles were most likely going to be going to Ukraine. Then just a couple days ago, Putin requested a phone call with Trump to speak to him just prior to Trump and Zelensky in the photo here meeting yesterday. And it looks like Putin did a very good job of convincing Trump not to give Ukraine these Tomahawk missiles. And from what we're hearing, at least for right now, it's being put on hold. Ukraine will not be receiving these. We'll be talking more about that and this meeting that took place yesterday between Trump and Zelensky in just a moment. We also have other top headline news. Last night, Ukrainian drones attacked an electrical substation in Russia's Ulyanovsk region. New videos coming out today. This is approximately 600 to 800 kilometers from Ukraine. I've got a video to show you guys here later during this video. And also we've got other miscellaneous stories coming out from this war that I want to update all of you on. So let's just jump right into this. Let's start sharing the information regarding this meeting yesterday. We're going to hop on over here to X with Max25. It says Trump told Zelensky in a tense meeting that he doesn't intend to provide long-range Tomahawk missiles, at least for now, according to Axios. It says nobody shouted, but Trump was tough, according to the first source. Trump gave several strong statements during the meeting, and at some point, it got a bit emotional, the second source said. The meeting ended abruptly after 2.5 hours. I think we're done. Let's see what happens next week, Trump said, referring to planned talks between U.S. and Russia. Trump intends to meet Putin in Budapest sometime in the next 2 weeks. Trump stressed that the current U.S. proposal for a diplomatic solution is for the war to end with the front lines frozen in place, a difficult proposition for Ukraine to accept. We're going to talk a lot about that. I've got numerous things to share with you on this. During Zelensky's call with the European leaders, UK Prime Minister Keir Starmer proposed working with the U.S. to draft peace for Ukraine along with lines of Trump's 20-point plan for Gaza. The source on the call said NATO Secretary General Mark Rutte proposed an urgent follow-up call between European national security advisors over the weekend. So yeah, we were hearing, I do have information here in just a moment that apparently after this meeting was held between Zelensky and Trump, soon after that, Zelensky held a phone call with European leaders. I'll show you guys that in just a moment. But yeah, a lot going on right now. So it looks like these Tomahawk missiles are not going to be going over to Ukraine. Apparently there was somewhat of a tough meeting. It got a little bit of emotional on both sides between Zelensky and Trump. We know that Zelensky wants these Tomahawk missiles, right? But it looks like Trump is being pretty stern right now. He wants to move back towards diplomacy and have Ukraine and Russia try to work this out again, or it looks like maybe it won't be a Zelensky and Putin meeting right away. It'll probably be Trump and Putin. Then they'll figure out how they're going to involve Zelensky after. Kind of looks like the same playbook that we saw back in Alaska whenever Putin flew over there to the United States to meet with Trump. And I wouldn't be surprised if we see the same outcome again. I mean, I don't know why the United States is going with the same game plan, but for right now they are. So we're going to discuss some of these other things here that is mentioned here in this post. Let's keep moving. Anton Gerashenko, President Trump says, I met with President Zelensky today. We had a very good meeting, a very cordial meeting, in my opinion. They should stop the war immediately. You go by the battle line wherever it is. Otherwise, it's too complicated. You'll never be able to figure it out. You stop at the battle line and both sides should go home, go to their families, stop the killing, and that should be it. Stop right now at the battle line. I told that to President Zelensky. I told it to President Putin. So there was a clip here of Trump stating this to reporters yesterday after he had spoken to Zelensky. I'm not going to show this video though, because I'm not sure where the source comes from and I don't want to have any issues with copyright. It could be a mainstream news outlet that might not be okay with me sharing that. But that's what he basically stated here, that he wants this war to come to an end. We know that, right? But he's calling for both sides to stop the fighting on the battle line. Just draw the lines, end the fighting, and everybody go home is what he's saying here. So not sure how that's going to be achieved, but apparently Zelensky is open to that. We'll go over some statements that Zelensky made yesterday. He is open to freezing the conflict kind of where it's at, apparently, and now we're kind of waiting for Putin to see how he responds, because apparently he spoke to Putin as well and told him the same thing, to freeze the battle lines, okay? So now Clash Report, Trump on the war in Ukraine. Let's both claim victory. Let history decide. No more shooting, no more death, no more vast and unsustainable sums of money spent. Okay, so here's a post from Donald J. Trump on True Social yesterday, the President of the United States. And he said the meeting with President Volodymyr Zelensky of Ukraine was very interesting and cordial, but I told him, as I likewise strongly suggested to President Putin, that it is time to stop the killing and make a deal. Enough blood has been shed, with property lines being defined by war and guts. They should stop where they are. Let both claim victory. Let history decide. No more shooting, no more death, no more vast and unsustainable sums of money spent. This is a war that would have never started if I were president. Thousands of people being slaughtered each and every week. No more. Go home to your families in peace. So how's that going to work out? I'm a little confused by how, the battle lines will just freeze and everybody goes home. I mean, wouldn't some troops from Ukraine and Russia have to still stay on the battle lines to maintain the front line? I mean, what if Ukraine decides to pull away and then the Russians just move forward inside of Ukraine? I don't see how that's going to work out. If you guys have information on that, or you want to explain that down in the comments, please let us know. But I don't really see how they're just going to walk away and go home, is kind of what Trump is insisting here. But let me know what you think on the interpretation of this message. Now, Knoll reports, White House spokeswoman Caroline Leavitt says the U.S. is growing weary of the war in Ukraine, and that Trump's and the American people's patience is wearing thin. Both sides must accept reality and strike a deal, she stated, adding that Trump is working tirelessly to end the conflict. This was Caroline Leavitt, the spokeswoman for the White House. She was on Fox News. It's like a 2-minute clip. We're not going to show this either, but that's basically what she was stating here, that apparently Trump and the American people's patience is wearing thin. So if she's talking about Trump's patience wearing thin, really makes me wonder what Trump is going to do next. That's obviously why we're not seeing these Tomahawks over to Ukraine. Looks like Putin was able to convince Trump not to do so. And then also, we're going to have to see how Putin responds. Now that he's being told by Trump to freeze the front line, what's going to happen? So far, we haven't heard anything come out from the Kremlin. So looks like Trump is getting a little impatient right now, according to Caroline Leavitt. Now we'll talk about some statements coming out from Zelensky as well after Trump and Zelensky met behind closed doors. It says Max 25. Zelensky says the Russians are afraid of Tomahawks. They know it is a strong weapon. They also know what kind of weapons we produce. They fear the combination. Reporter asks, are you more or less optimistic that you are going to get Tomahawks? Zelensky says, I'm realistic. Zelensky, we have to stop where we are now. Trump is right, and then start talking about how to take steps towards long-term peace. So you can see Zelensky was stating towards the end here that he is open to Trump's proposal that they need to stop the war. So I'm curious how they're going to resolve that, but also talking about these, Tomahawks going to Ukraine. Apparently that was Zelensky's response, saying, I'm a realist. So does that mean that, he's pretty much just giving in to the fact that Trump is not going to give these Tomahawks to them? Or let me know what you think on that. But again, it looks like right now these missiles will not be going to Ukraine. I'm also hearing like other types of long-range missiles. There's no agreement on anything right now. That's completely frozen. And it looks like the next steps are going to be this Trump and Putin summit in Budapest, Hungary, coming up here in the next couple weeks. We don't even have a date on that just yet. Here's more statements from Zelensky after meeting with Trump from Kiev Post. It says, we decided to focus more on production, Zelensky noted, emphasizing joint work with the U.S. and other countries on the logistics of future arms supplies. On the question of long-range missiles, he said, both sides, the U.S. and Ukraine, agreed not to discuss the issue publicly to avoid escalation. So that was a big one, too. We kind of mentioned this earlier, but Yeah, apparently we're not going to hear anything right now about these Tomahawks. Zelensky's not going to be publicly talking about it. Trump's not going to publicly talk about it. They're trying to focus on, or the U.S. is, excuse me, trying to focus on these talks with Putin, and they don't want to escalate the situation and maybe make Putin back out from these discussions that could be taking place at the summit upcoming here in Hungary between Trump and Putin in the future. Says Zelensky said he did not discuss the issue of Ukrainian strikes on targets inside Russia during his meeting with President Trump. I thought that was interesting. So it looks like it was dead in the water from the very beginning of the conversation. Trump probably told Zelensky right away, we're not going to be sending Tomahawks, so they didn't even bother talking about, where they're going to target inside of Russia if they receive them. Also, it says he stated that Ukraine trusts the U.S. and President Trump because he genuinely wants to end this war. Putin hates me and I hate him too, Zelensky said, adding that peace talks should begin only after a ceasefire along the current front line. Are they going to be able to achieve a ceasefire? So far, we haven't seen one, and Ukraine has already agreed to an unconditional ceasefire in the past. Russia refused to do that. When asked if he is optimistic about receiving Tomahawk, Zelensky laughed and said, I'm a realist. We have to stop where we are now and then start talking. But the question is Putin, because we didn't start this war, Zelensky said, agreeing with Trump, who earlier urged both leaders in a True Social post to stop where they are and halt the fighting. Ukraine cannot withstand ballistic missile attacks with its current air defenses. Our energy system simply can't handle it, Zelensky said, calling for stronger pressure on Russia through advanced weapon supplies. So apparently their energy system is in bad shape right now. We have been reporting a lot of that. Major strikes on Ukraine's energy grid and their gas facilities just being destroyed, wiped out, and Russian missile and drone attacks. Zelensky said Ukraine needs strong security guarantees after ceasefire to ensure Putin does not return with new aggression. We have heard this in the past, so lots of big statements were made here by Zelensky yesterday. There's more information. Then also military news UA, Zelensky brought Trump maps with pain points of the Russian defense industry, a source of RBC Ukraine reported. The maps show pain points of the Russian defense industry and military economy, which can be pressed to force Putin to stop the war. Okay, this was another big report also, but clearly, as we were hearing, apparently, there was no talk about strikes inside of Russia. So according to RBC Ukraine, yesterday this was being reported that apparently Zelensky did bring some maps to show Trump where they want to target inside of Russia, maybe even inside of Moscow. But again, at the same time, what we're hearing right now is these missiles are not going to be going to Ukraine. So for the most part, this is null and void until we start to hear that Ukraine is going to be receiving these missiles. Just wanted to share that information with you there. Now, Savchenko Volodymyr. According to Chancellor Merz, the visit of Ukrainian President Zelensky to U.S. President Trump has shown how necessary European assistance is for Ukraine. This visit was not what Zelensky wanted. I think I can say that here too, he added. Europe must help all the more because the war can only be ended if Ukraine is militarily strong. He will work to support Ukraine financially, politically, and of course militarily. A capitulation of Ukraine is not an option because Russia would then attack the next European country. Okay, so it looks like your Chancellor Merz from Germany pretty much coming out and saying that, this was not a very good meeting, that I guess they were hoping these Tomahawk missiles were going to go over to Ukraine so that way Ukraine can strike these targets inside of Russia. Russia can, eventually come to the table and end this war if they take major hits from these missiles. So it looks like Chancellor Merz was not too happy with this meeting yesterday, and I'm sure a lot of other European nations were not happy with it as well because, in my opinion, what was the whole point of this meeting? Nothing basically came from it. All we really heard was that, there's going to be a summit coming up between Trump and Putin, but that could have been set up without Zelensky even going to the United States. So was that a waste of time for Zelensky to even go to the U.S. to begin with? You guys can let me know what you think, but pretty crazy what is happening here. Now, Slava, what do we have? Trump ordered a halt along the current front lines. Zelensky accepted the proposal. Now, everything depends on Putin. He is ready. The war is over. Trump got the impression that Ukraine was seeking escalation and prolonging the conflict. He allegedly even stated that he would not hand over Tomahawks to Kiev, according to CNN and Axios. We will find out the Kremlin's response soon. Ahead of us is a meeting in Budapest. Either it will be Rurik and Yaroslav the Wise again, or we will really enter the home stretch. If Putin backs down in Hungary, Ukraine will probably get Tomahawks. That's what I was thinking as well, that maybe this is the next step. is Trump and Putin will meet in Budapest, Hungary, and maybe if nothing comes from that, maybe this is the final straw for the United States. You guys can let me know if you think that. If you disagree with that, I totally understand why you would. But let's say it's the final straw for Trump, and then Trump says, hey, Putin doesn't want to end the war. You know what? Here comes the Tomahawk, so we're sending them over to Ukraine. I want to say that that could be a possibility. Now, maybe it will, maybe it won't. We don't know for sure yet. But it also mentions here that apparently Trump may have gotten the impression that Ukraine wants to seek escalation and prolong the conflict. That maybe that's the reason why also Ukraine did not receive these Tomahawk missiles. But again, if Zelensky has this whole plan of striking certain targets inside of Russia to force Russia to end this war, I mean, again, numerous times we've seen that Putin does not want to end the war. He wants to continue the fighting. He's not ready to end it. So Zelensky's looking for an option to force Russia to the table. And many times, not only Zelensky, but many other top European nations claim that, we need to have pressure onto Putin to force him to the table, that he's not just going to willingly do this. He's got to make it appear as if Russia is losing, or Ukraine needs to show that Russia's losing in order to get Putin to the table. So if you guys kind of see where I'm going with that, definitely a difficult situation. We'll have to see how things unfold. Now, Max 25. Following his meeting with Donald Trump, Zelensky's holding a group telephone conversation with EU leaders. According to Substation, the conversation is currently ongoing, but the full list of participants is still unknown. So as I mentioned earlier, there was a conversation on the phone between Zelensky and EU leaders. We don't know who was involved. Apparently, one of them was going to be Keir Starmer from the UK, the prime minister over there. Apparently, he was on that phone call because he made some statements about, the whole Gaza deal and everything, the proposal to end the war between Hamas and Israel, that he thinks that could be tied into this war, possibly used with the same format to end the war between Ukraine and Russia. So we know Keir Starmer was involved in that phone call, but apparently Zelensky did speak to other EU leaders. If we get more details on that phone call, I'll let you guys know. Now, Vicegrad 24, Putin's plane to Budapest will be escorted by Turkish and Russian fighter jets. Due to ongoing EU sanctions and airspace restrictions, Russian government aircraft are banned from flying over most of Europe. The most likely route for Putin's flight to Budapest runs over the Black Sea, Turkey, and Mediterranean, Montenegro, and Serbia before entering Hungary from Serbian airspace. The altered route is estimated to stretch around 5,000 kilometers, adding roughly 3 extra hours compared to the direct 1,500-kilometer path. Protection from drone and missile threats will be provided by Russian and Turkish fighter jets. According to Air Live, here's the report. Which route will Putin's plane take to fly to Budapest for meeting with Trump? So what an interesting route that Putin's going to have to take. Obviously, he can't just go right over European airspace to go into Hungary. Hungary is a landlocked nation, so he's going to have to go way down here through Turkey, around through the Mediterranean Sea, and then up on over here through Serbia into Hungary just to get to Budapest to meet with Trump. So what an interesting route that Putin's going to have to take just due to sanctions. And apparently, Turkish fighter jets will be aiding to protect Putin's plane from getting shot down or anything like that. So pretty crazy. There's the path that most likely Putin's going to have to take just to get to Hungary. Now, Z's Maxim. The Kremlin continues to employ manipulative rhetoric, combining economic offers with veiled military threats in an attempt to both normalize relations and curb U.S. support for Ukraine, according to the Institute for the Study of War. Dmitry proposed a friendship tunnel, which the USSR dreamed of building as the Kennedy-Khrushchev Peace Bridge. And now under the name Trump-Putin Tunnel, which should connect Chukotka with Alaska. The cost of the project is $65 billion. The construction period is 8 years. But Dmitriev said that if Elon Musk's drilling company is involved in the project will supposedly cost $8 billion. Trump called the tunnel idea an interesting one that needs to be considered. So interesting story, right? Now, we talked about this over the past couple days, this whole tunnel idea between Russia, connecting Russia over to Alaska in the United States through the Bering Strait right here. Apparently, Dmitriev, a member of their parliament in Russia, considered this idea and proposed it to Trump. Trump is apparently open to this, okay? And the Institute for the Study of War is claiming that the Kremlin is doing this on purpose to employ manipulative rhetoric and combining economic offers with veiled military threats in an attempt to normalize relations with the U.S. We are seeing that with this option here, right? And then curbing U.S. support for Ukraine. Isn't that what happened? and we're not seeing these Tomahawks going to Ukraine no more, right? So was this a tactic? It was just weird that this came up all at the same time, right? That we're hearing, Ukraine is going to get Tomahawks and whatnot. And then all of a sudden, this gets tied into, Putin saying, oh, hey, we're open to negotiations inside of Hungary all of a sudden. So pretty crazy. Let me know if you think the Russians are doing this on purpose to, obviously extend the war inside of Ukraine and curb military support for Ukraine from the U.S. Now, military news UA. At night, drones attack the Veshkaima, if I'm saying that right, substation, 500 kilovolt in the Ulyanovsk region. It is an important node of the middle Volga energy system, connecting the energy systems of the Urals and central Russia. Explosions were also heard in the Moscow region. Yeah, I think Moscow was coming under heavy attack last night as well by Ukrainian drones. These were some of the two areas that we had reports of strikes, was Moscow region and then the Ulyanovsk region. So Ulyanovsk is going to be close to the Samara region of Russia, probably 600 to 800 kilometers closer to central Russia. We had this electrical substation right here that came under attack. This is a satellite image. I've got videos now. Kiev Insider, Russia's Ulyanovsk region, 500 kilovolts, Veshkaima substation has been hit. This is one of the main energy hubs of the Middle Volga system, part of the Rosety FGC UES, Russia's state power grid. The Veshkaima substation links the Ulyanovsk, Mordovian, Chuvash, and Samara power systems, serving as a key junction in the Volga power ring. So those are like more central regions of Russia. Massive electricity flows run through it from the northeast, including the Syzran and Ziguli hydroelectric power plants towards central Russia. The damage could seriously disrupt regional power transmission. So I've got a video here to share with you guys. Got a couple pictures of the map to kind of show you where it's located as well. Let's jump into this video real quick.
Не знаю, по звуку слышно, нет. Пожарка вон стоит. Вот второй по звуку также летит.
Она получит, блядь. Если так идет. Хорошо, пойдем.
Вон летит.
О, над нами, пацаны.
Падает, смотри. Вот, на электростанции. Не знаю, по звуку.
All right, so I do apologize. Kind of a louder video here, but yeah, towards the end, we can see this drone eventually smashing into this facility, causing a huge blast right there. Still waiting for more details on any damages that was caused to this electrical substation, but we have been seeing Ukraine and Russia doing a lot of this to each other recently. There's a snapshot on how big the explosion was when that drone struck. And then also we've got this map to kind of show you guys where it's located. So there's Ukraine right here. And then the Ulyanovsk region. I think this is the Penza region here. And then the Samara region. This would be the Saratov region where the Engels Air Base is located, where Russia has strategic bombers located over there as well. Okay, so I think about 600 to 800 kilometers deep into Russia is where this strike took place. So now let's move on to Euromaidan's press. Ukrainian drones destroyed a Russian Tornado S rocket launcher, the first documented elimination of the advanced system. The launcher struck civilian areas from up to 120 kilometers away before Ukrainian forces tracked it 33 kilometers behind Russian lines. This is a picture of the Tornado S rocket launcher system, and apparently Ukraine had destroyed one of these, and I think it's the first time, according to this information, that this has ever happened. So, yeah, apparently they destroyed one of these, and we have had reports of Tornado S rockets landing in cities. I think sometimes in like Dnipro, we see attacks from these. So very big report that apparently Ukraine had destroyed one of these over the past day or so. Now, Bliskovka, the occupiers again struck educational institutions and railway infrastructure facilities in the Sumy region with drones, according to Regional Military Administration. The blast wave damaged windows and passenger cars in the station building. Preliminarily, there were no casualties. So great to hear that nobody was affected, but we had an educational institution. Looks like maybe a kid's playground here came under attack. Look at this wall. It took some damage. And we got a piece of what looks like a Shahed drone that landed right here also. It looks like it started a fire right there. And we also have glass on the ground right next to a train that most likely came under attack in the Sumy region as well. We've been seeing a lot of railway systems being attacked up in that area in Sumy and also Cherniv regions. Those are like northern, northeastern Ukraine area. So it looks like we had another railway that came under attack there. So thankfully, nobody was harmed in these events with these drones slamming into these areas, but we did have some attacks on critical civilian infrastructure here once again. Now, Anton Yushchenko, Finland will provide Ukraine with its 30th military aid package estimated at 52 million euros or $60.6 million. The country's defense ministry stated the aid will mainly consist of new orders from Finnish defense companies. It said in a statement. It also noted that for security reasons and to ensure delivery to its destination, Finland is not disclosing details of the contents of the aid, its transportation method, or the delivery schedule. Thank you, Finland. Interesting. So Finland's not going to be announcing what they're sending over to Ukraine, but they are announcing a 30th aid package over to Ukraine worth 52 million euros. So very good to hear coming out from Finland to help them out inside of Ukraine. And we did hear a few days ago that Finland would be announcing an aid package. This came out around the time of the Ramstein meeting earlier this week. So there's some details. Looks like they're finally sending over an aid package to Ukraine. It has been announced. Now, Max 25, Russia completely closes the airspace over the Kapustin Yar test site from October 18th to the 21st. So this is not good to hear. We do know the Russians launch the Oreshnik medium-range ballistic missile from this test site. Maybe they're testing out some sort of other missiles over here. Not really sure what's going on. But if they are closing the airspace over this Kapustin Yar test site, that indicates they will most likely either be firing some missiles over here, testing one out, or hopefully we do not see an Oreshnik being used inside of Ukraine. But I can't see that happening right now just because we're about to see some major talks between Trump and Putin in the future in the next couple weeks. But definitely something to keep an eye on. I will for sure follow this and see if we get information on any missile launches coming from this test site. Now, War Translated. A satellite image shows the Feodosia oil depot hit by multiple Ukrainian strikes. 22 of 33 tanks burned, with some remaining tanks appearing damaged. So, new satellite image showing the results of these strikes on the Feodosia oil depot down in eastern Crimea that came under attack like 2 times over the past month or two. So, these red circles are going to indicate one strike, and then the yellow was the second one over the past couple months. So look at the damage here. I heard some reports that were indicating that 73% of this facility has been destroyed. I mean, we can see here 1, 2, 3. This one's kind of damaged. 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 of these oil storage tanks remaining. And it looks like at least, 10, 15 of them have already been destroyed. So a good majority of this facility is wiped out and for the most part not going to be usable. And we know the Russians use this fuel depot here for fuel for the Russian military to continue fighting inside of Ukraine and launching attacks onto Ukraine as well with aircraft. So very big hits by Ukraine recently, huge damage to the Feodosia oil depot. Now, Beefeater. The General Staff of the Armed Forces of Ukraine reported that besides the oil depot in Vardysky and the Roz Reserve plant in Nazivin, if I'm saying that's right, other military facilities in Crimea were also hit last night. A fuel and lubricants warehouse of Russian troops in Zonkoy and a Nebo U radar station in Yevpatoria. Okay, so yeah, more reports coming out as of yesterday evening, actually, that apparently it wasn't just the Vardysky oil depot that came under attack that I reported to you guys yesterday. Apparently, Ukraine went after other targets, and Ukraine's general staff confirmed that. They also hit a fuel and lubricants warehouse in Zonkoy. That's going to be inside of, I think, northern Crimea. And then Yevpatoria, a Nebo U radar station was attacked, which is what you're looking at here. That was in the western side of Crimea. Okay, so very big news. And on top of that, they hit another Roz Reserve plant in Nazivne, if I'm saying that right. Kind of hard to pronounce the name of this, but here it is right there. They attacked another type of oil facility located inside of Crimea. So very big news from Ukraine's general staff. Now, Anton Yushchenko, temporary ceasefire. IAEA reports start of power line repairs at the Zaporizhzhia nuclear power plant. The International Atomic Energy Agency, IAEA, has announced that start of repair work on the power line supplying the Zaporizhzhia nuclear power plant. The repairs were originally scheduled to take place from October 11th to the 17th, but Russia failed to provide timely security guarantees for repair crews, causing delays. The Zaporizhzhia nuclear power plant lost external power supply on September 23rd after another line was damaged by Russian shelling. The plant is currently operating on 7 diesel generators with another 13 on standby. Ukrainian Eneroatom has warned that the resources of the emergency generators are limited both in terms of fuel reserves and operational lifespan. Their activation marks the start of the countdown toward a potential nuclear fuel meltdown if stable power is not restored. So very scary what's happening over here inside of Ukraine on the southern side in the Zaporizhzhia region. We have the Zaporizhzhia nuclear power plant that lost power just over the last month due to Russian shelling, apparently. I think the Russians were claiming that Ukraine carried out strikes too, knocking out the power over there. But this has happened numerous times where power lines are being destroyed connecting to the Zaporizhzhia nuclear power plant. And we've been hearing recently there could be a nuclear incident over there because only diesel generators are operating that plant right now. And if that thing loses power, that's very bad news for the nuclear power plant. So apparently the IAEA is down there repairing some power lines right now to get it connected back to the grid. Very good to hear about that. Hopefully they can get the situation back under control and we don't see any more attacks over there. But we know that this nuclear power plant is in the right in the middle of a war zone. So these kinds of things are going to happen. But yeah, lots of reports of Ukraine claiming that Russia carrying out deliberate strikes, trying to knock out the power to that nuclear power plant. So let's hope they get that under control. Now, no reports. Overnight on October 18th, Russia launched 3 S-300 missiles and 164 attack drones on Ukraine. Air defenses shot down or jammed 136 drones, including Shaheeds, Garans, and others across the north, south, and east and center. However, 27 drones hit 12 locations with debris falling in 4 more. So pretty large attack onto Ukraine overnight, 167 drones, and we had, looks like 3 missiles being fired as well. So 136 drones being taken out overnight. Very good numbers to hear about that. Out of those 167, so only about 20 or 30 or so were actually able to hit their locations. That's why we didn't hear too much destruction. But again, we did hear about some drones slamming into Sumy today, overnight actually, with that educational institution. And we also had a railway that was attacked over there as well. So good news there. Now Kyiv Independent. These are the indicative estimates of Russia's combat losses as of October 18th, according to the Armed Forces of Ukraine. In our final update, Russia's losses as of October 18th, 1,150 troops, 2 AFVs, 131 vehicles and fuel tanks, 1 tank, 41 artillery systems, 498 UAVs, 2 MLRS, 1 plane, 2 cruise missiles, 2 special equipment. Wow, lots being destroyed here on the Russian side. 2 special equipment. We usually don't see anything here. Sometimes only 1, but looks like 2 were destroyed over the last 24 hours. That plane's going to be that Su-30 SM. This is the one that crashed northwestern Crimea yesterday. Apparently could have been shot down by their own air defense, but we have not been able to confirm that. 2 multiple launch rocket systems being destroyed. Very good news right here. 41 artillery systems, up a little bit higher today. We've usually been seeing about 20 or so on average for artillery systems recently. Tanks and AFVs are pretty much nothing here for these categories, but vehicles and field tanks up quite a bit today. Also, usually see about 75 or 80 or so on average there, but these numbers have been creeping up recently. And then troop numbers up a lot again today as well. For the longest time, it was at like 800-900 troops per day on average. Just over the last 4 or 5 days now, we've been seeing 1,100-1,200 consistently. So that probably indicates that the Russians are trying to carry out more offensive actions along the front line, and they're taking on massive losses as usual. Okay, guys, so I want to thank you very much for tuning in for today's update on October 18th, 2025. Hope you guys all have a great rest of your weekend. Just a kind reminder, I most likely will not be here tomorrow. Sundays are my allocated day off each week to spend time with myself and my family. So I will be back here on Monday for you guys, which should be on October 20th, okay? So thanks so much for tuning in. Let me know what you think about all these details down below in the comment section. That's going to be it for today's update. If you got something out of this, please smash that like button. Also, if you enjoy my content, please consider subscribing down below. Hit the notification bell. That way YouTube can notify you. And with that, hope you all have a great day. Everybody take care and God bless, and we'll see you in the next one.